Hello and welcome to Total... No, let's do that again. Hello and welcome to All Extreme Morro. All Elite Morro. Let's do it again. Hello and welcome to All Elite Morro. We're the best. Talk wrestling. It only took 3 goes. Shane messaged me right as I was about to start and confused me. He said the thumbnail. And I said, what do you mean? And he was talking about something totally different. Different thumbnail. He has a plan. Thanks, David. I do super smooth entry into this week's one. Is my camera blurry? Because it looks blurry on my YouTube screen, but not on my OBS screen. Yup, the morons. Cottle Crow, groovy setup. Yeah, I tried to make an improvement. I don't think it's quite finished yet. I feel like I need to add a chat box. I had a chat box added, and then it wouldn't show the chat. So I thought it just looked like dead space. So I just left it blank. That's under where the Double Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show logo is. But there will be, hopefully, in future, a chat box there when I figure out how to show the live chat. Because I think that would be kind of cool. And it would not necessitate me having 2 screens open. Because right now I'm looking at myself on YouTube and OBS. And yeah, it's annoying. Shane, yeah, you really confused the shit on me there with your thumbnail talk. I thought you were saying there was a problem with my thumbnail for the stream when I was about to click go live. But I think you're referring to your absolute clickbait thumbnail coming up on your next episode of Bizarre. Shane has a superb clickbait thumbnail coming up in the hope of gaining more views. Although the Kerwin White one last weekend was just took off in terms of views. Who knew that there's a market out there for Kerwin White content? But yeah, well done, Shane. That was actually quite a sensational piece of visual storytelling on your part. Ronan Diana says, no blurs, no whispers. What can happen this evening? Something's going to go wrong. Well, I don't know if you were here a minute ago, Ronan. I botched my little entry piece twice. I started by calling it Total Extreme Morro, then I called it All Extreme Morro, and then I finally got it right with All Elite Morro. Ron, you weren't here, and I congratulated you last week as well on your appointment with the Kilkenny minor team in this upcoming hurling year. So congratulations. Sensational. Top class analyst. Top class. I've seen your work in person, and it's excellent. If anyone out there needs an analyst, hit up Ronan the Analyst. It's in the name. In terms of fan wrestling show fan response, today we had I replied saying Morrow is da goat. Then Roland replied to AEW badly needs more titles. Honest to God, today is going to be a fucking rant about the amount of titles in pro wrestling. Oshin Mack says, I like the AEW National Title, but isn't it what the international title should have been? Yes. Yes. Oh, God. Like, what are we doing here? Cottle says, thoughts on Wrestle Kingdom ticket sales. Have a whole segment on that, Cottle. Loads to talk about on that one. That's actually very interesting, I think. Ronan commented there, welcome to ABM, All Blurry Morro. I think that was on last week's one. Stage Guy says, favourite OTT match of the year. Live, in terms of ones I was at, I think I'd have to pick Callum Black versus Jay for the No Limit title up in the Barbican and Drogheda. Atmosphere alone just elevated the match. Was brilliant. A great match anyway, but I thought with the atmosphere involved, it was sensational match. It's really like that love dynamic between the two of those. Two of OTT's kind of underrated MVPs of the year, I think. And then in terms of ones I've watched back on demand of shows I couldn't attend. And I suppose it's not an OTT match. It was a Cool Championship Wrestling match. Be Cool's breakaway was the triple threat ladder match from the CCW show in, I think it was August. Yeah, I feel like it was August. Yeah, it was August because I couldn't go because I had a christening. Yeah, who was it? Hype Dogs versus Jay and Raven Creed versus Keen. And who was Keen's partner? I don't remember. But yeah, either one of those matches I thought were both sensational. Shane, are you here still, or are you editing your stupid little video? Who was Keen's partner in the triple threat ladder match? Imagine unifying two belts because you have too many, and then 6 months later you create another one. David, that's the thing. They unified two belts, and one of the belt that they've created is the same as one of the belts they unified. It's just like, what is going on? Like, then Mark Dowd says thoughts on the Nixon drama. We'll be getting to that too. The Nixon Newell drama segment on that as well. There are the wrestling show fan responses. Let's jump in. It's Martin Steers. That was it. Martin Steers. Martin Steers is unbelievable, by the way. For a guy who's kind of knocking around a while, I haven't seen him that many times. He was sensational on the show in Drogheda as well in the Four Corners tag match. The elimination tag. So yeah, they were probably my two favourite OTT matches of the year. The tag match, Hype Dogs versus Renzo and Bullet at the 11th anniversary was brilliant as well. And I really enjoyed... there was one at the local Rumble. It was one of the money matches. Was it Luke Jacobs and Donovan Dijak? Or was it Connor Mills? I can't remember. That's February now. It's a long time ago. But really enjoyed that one as well. In case you don't know, my memory is terrible. I have terrible recall memory. That's why I like sitting beside John Martin doing the podcast. It's just like insane when he just recalls everything. But here is the new. This is the old NWA National Wrestling Championship. Predominantly kind of defended in Georgia Championship Wrestling, but used throughout territories. And AEW have now made the announcement last Wednesday that they're introducing an AEW National Title. And I'm not really going to talk about the kind of confusion regarding is it a continuation of the title or not? Because technically, Billy Corgan's NWA has this as an active title, and it caused a bit of a shitstorm on Twitter with the current champion lashing out and saying all sorts of mean and nasty stuff about AEW and Tony Khan and so on and so on. And there's all this stuff about he's doing it in revenge because we have Shockwave under patent and they can't call their new show Shockwave, and he's doing this, blah, blah, blah. To be honest, I doubt Tony even knew that the NWA still had a national championship going. And also, the reason why we haven't seen Shockwave has nothing got to do with any copyrights from NWA. It's that they just never got a deal with Fox. So I think that's kind of a nonsense argument. But I think the greater discussion here, really, and what I wanted to get into is just the sheer amount of titles, not just in AEW, in wrestling in general. And like, I feel like in a lot of cases it's just a complete booking crutch. And here's the thing: if you have a bunch of titles in your territory and all those titles are hot and there's a big interest in all the titles, and a lot of the titles can main event weekly shows and can draw, then maybe you can bring in a new title. But does it feel like all AEW titles at the minute are hot? It doesn't really feel like that to me. I think they feel like they're hotter than they were, but none of them, they don't feel super hot or anything. It was strange that they said it wasn't linear of the old title, then mentioned previous national. that was the weirdest part, Ronan. Like, they're out there mentioning Koloff and all these guys whose name MVP botched. But an MVP's promo, like MVP's a great promo guy. I'm wondering, did he get the word cut to do this promo literally 2 minutes before the show or whatever? Because it was one of the worst promos I've ever heard him cut. Felt like he didn't have a clue what he was trying to get across. And that's not like MVP. He's like super solid on the mic. But yeah, like that's where the confusion was brought in, is that they mentioned like a lot of legends from the 80s who held the national championship, yet they're kind of saying it's not a continuation of that. And also they said like the purpose of the title is to be defended in like around the world, multiple promotions, blah, 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 blah. But that's what the old international title was as well. Pac even defended it against LJ Cleary in OTT. That was then shown on, was it on Dark? I think it was shown on AEW Dark the following week. And like, wasn't that the purpose of the original international title? Takeshita defended it in Japan, I think. Yeah, that was supposed to be the purpose, that it would be defended in multiple promotions. But then it just became like another title to stick on Dynamite on Wednesdays, and it felt like kind of what's the point if that's the way they're using it. So when they unified the international title, I felt like that was a really good idea, and created the unified title. I felt like that was a really good idea because it felt like having those two mid-card title, like upper mid-card titles there, neither of them had, their purposes weren't different enough to warrant having two. And I feel like this is just going to eventually happen with this title as well, that it might start out with the intended purpose for a little while, but then just be used as a booking crutch to stick it onto someone. Like David Ayers there says, feels like it's designed so Lashley can get a belt. Yes. However, I don't think Lashley will be the initial holder, because I think it will be someone who does travel a lot to multiple promotions already. So it could be like an MJF or something, a guy who now has he's basically a proven draw now in Mexico. They could even put it on someone like Mystico, who, when they do bring him in to AEW, because I do think they want to bring him in more, but when they bring him in, he's an established champion, and they can bring him in like once a month to defend his title in AEW and then let him beat everyone down in CMLL. I think that's kind of what they should do. I don't know if they will. Maybe it is just designed to get it on Lashley, but then it defeats the purpose of, I think, what the title should be anyway. Oshin Max says, for me, the amount of titles isn't an issue. It's only an issue because there are some of them that just feel so bloody redundant and uneventful. That's exactly it. Like I was saying, like if all these titles felt hot and felt differentiated from each other, having another title with a different purpose, there's nothing wrong with that. However, the fact that some titles kind of feel a little bit redundant as it is, then what's the point in bringing in a new one? Work on getting those ones their own identity. So I do agree with Oshin there. It's AEW trying to keep up, trying to keep guys over and just throwing a title on him. I think that's a big part of it, Ronan. I think that's a big part of it. It's like a booking crutch. We need to keep this guy hot, or we need to do something with this guy. Let's just stick the national title on him and have him. Like, I think Kyle Fletcher has been doing great stuff with the TNT title, and because it feels like a TV title again. And he's over on Collision having bangers every week. The Ace Austin match last weekend was fucking out of this world good. Out of this world good. Exactly what a TV title should be. And he had that match with a couple of weeks ago, someone they brought in. Oh no, it was a Commander. Another brilliant match. Like that's what. So they've gotten that right with the AEW or TNT title. I feel like Mercedes should be defending the TBS title more in that vein. Like, that just feels like a prop on her at the moment, even though she has had some good defenses, but like that has had more prominence on pay-per-view than it had on TV. Shane says there, with the announcement of a closing of indies in US, could this help elevate the indies? If it's used right, Shane, but do you trust Do you trust it to be used right? Imagine an independent wrestler winning the title. Look, that would be unbelievable, but I don't think Tony is ever going to put a title on a non-contracted wrestler who could then be snapped up by WWE. Yeah, I think that would just... I don't think he'd ever take that risk in the current climate with counter-programming and the various business tactics that are taking place. It'd be a huge risk. Now, if you secretly sign an independent wrestler and have them win the title, like, think of, like, they could have done it with Adam Priest there, because I think they've signed Adam Priest now. Jake Something is a free agent. Like, what if someone's going out defending the title on the indies and they lose it to Jake Something, and you've secretly signed Jake Something, but nobody knows you've signed him? Well, that's, I suppose, what secret means. Nobody knows you've signed him, and then, like, he shows up in AEW with your title. You could do a fucking brilliant story with that, like. Most of the titles in WWE these days are barely defended. Oh, don't you worry, David. WWE are getting both barrels for title situations in a minute as well. Then pointless title if no sense of jeopardy. Totally agree. Like, you're right. Now, look, we're jumping the gun here. We don't know. Here's my thing. The international title started off with that purpose of being defended all around the world and all over the indies. And initially, that's what was done. Then it just became basically another TV title. And it actually really hurt the TNT title for a long time. And the TNT title's only after regaining its purpose, both since Kyle Fletcher got the title and since the international title got unified. Like, the TNT title for before Kyle Fletcher and before the unification was the most redundant title in the company. It now feels like it's not redundant, but a part of that title kind of regaining a bit of prestige is both the work Kyle Fletcher is doing on Collision and on Dynamite, and the fact that the international title has gone away. It feels like the TNT title has been bumped up. So, like, my issue with this title, the introduction of this title, is this could turn out to be great if they do the kind of things that people in the chat are saying. Like what Shane said there about using it to elevate the indies with, like, DPW just announced closure. DPW is like one of the last super indies gone. They're one of the last indies who fly people in and put them up in hotels for their shows and stuff. And, like, that's a real bad thing for the development of independent and young wrestlers, up and comers, if there's less place for them to get reps before being signed by one of the big two or big three, if you count TNA in there, or even MLW. And if this title can be used in that sense, then fantastic. It's just, my worry is it won't be used in that sense, and it just becomes like what Ronan says there about throw a title on someone just to keep them over or get them over in the first place. But, like, so, like, here I have... Huh? On there, why isn't my weird technical issues, man. It's showing up on the side, but it's not showing up there. Oh, we're just gonna wing it. So, cage match, right? If we go to AEW here on cage match, I had this clipped and put in. This is the list of AEW champions on cage match. You've technically those continental and international title are separate, but they're now the unified title. So Okada holds them. The national championship there is vacant. Mercedes Moné has the TBS. Kyle Fletcher has TNT. Okada has the unified title. Statlander has the women's. The women's tag titles haven't been decided yet. Then you have the AEW World Tag and Trios. What's that, 12 or 13 titles, 2 of which are inactive? So you've got about 10 titles across 2 shows. Feels like too much to me. Feels like too much, right? But it's not only that. It's when you add to that everything going on in Ring of Honor. Right? If you look at the Ring of Honor titles here, you're talking like another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those titles. One of which, the women's pure title, hasn't been decided yet, even though it feels like they've been trying to pick a champion for that for the last 7 or 8 months. And the women's TV title also has an interim title, which is Mercedes Moné. So technically, you've got 9 titles going. Another one of which is trios. There's 3 people there walking around with a belt. So like between the main roster, we'll say, and their developmental Ring of Honor, you're looking at 19 different titles that are currently active. 19 titles currently active. That's an awful lot of fucking people walking around with a belt. If the Ring of Honor ones were kept completely out of AEW, or off AEW television, then, you know, that might be a little bit better. But they're not, because we've seen Bandito defend the world title in a... Look, don't get me wrong, the Mascara Dorada match was fucking brilliant on Collision. But that's just another title then that's been used on AEW TV to make a main event for a TV show. Like, what, you're introducing a national title when you're using the Ring of Honor title on your TV already. Jimmy B says, sorry, haven't been on a lot recently. Turns out babies take a lot of time and energy. Well, look, it's your own doing, Jamie. You know what I mean? It's a great thing, but you done it to yourself. Yeah, that's why I watch so much wrestling. I don't have kids, and you know, you never know, maybe someday, but I don't see kids in my immediate future. Therefore, I will continue to be a near 40-year-old man complaining about the amount of titles in wrestling on the internet. I feel like that's my lot in life. And then if you go to WWE here, wait till you see this. Wait till you see. These are all the ones I clipped earlier. Look at this list of champions, right? Look at this. Look at the size of this list. So this is including their developmental titles, right? And that includes the ID titles, the Evolve titles, all that kind of stuff, right? So you got all these NXT titles. You got the Speed Championship. Isn't there a women's? Yeah, there's a women's Speed Championship. Which who has the women's Speed? It's vacant at the minute. You just got to look at that. I think it's like 23 titles. I think there's 23 active titles in WWE across all their brands at the moment, and are in around 2021 in AEW. There's absolutely no need for these companies, for the 2 major American companies, to have over 40 titles on the go. Over 40 titles. It's utter insanity. Here's the most, I would say, galling aspect of the whole thing for me. WWE have 2 world titles. One of which, you can see the top one, is called the Undisputed WWE Championship. The Undisputed WWE Championship in a company with 2 world titles. Make it make sense. And not only is it called the Undisputed, the holder of the Undisputed WWE Championship, Cody Rhodes, recently lost to the former holder of, what is it called? What's even the name of it? WWE World Heavyweight Championship? So the Undisputed Champion lost to the World Heavyweight Champion a month ago at the Crown Jewel thing, and his title's called the Undisputed WWE Championship. It's undisputed. There's absolutely no dispute as to who is the champion of this company. Yet there's another WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and the former champion of that recently beat the Undisputed Champion. I swear that this, like, it drives me insane. AITA? Is that the thing? Am I over the top here on this? Am I OTT? Pun intended. Am I OTT on the idea of having an undisputed world champion and another world champion? You heard of the belt collector, but not the eater of belts, unifying titles as they capture them. Just somebody has to do it, Colin. Somebody has to unify 43 belts in WWE. It drives me insane. The undisputed world champion, the undisputed WWE champion, lost to the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Yet it's called the undisputed champion. Like, and like, Punk is going around there with WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Do you think Punk genuinely believes he's the WWE World Champion. Everyone knows Cody Rhodes is the top champion in that company. Everyone knows it. Having 2 world titles, I don't care if you've got 2 brands. It doesn't mean anything. There's only one person viewed as the world champion, and that's Cody Rhodes. And I think this is why these companies are struggling with things like ratings and ticket sales, is because everything has diminishing returns. The meaning, all of these things are losing meaning. Calling Punk a WrestleMania main eventer, that loses meaning. He didn't main event WrestleMania. He main evented, well, I think Shane said it best when he said it was the last match before the interval. Ribshot says if intercontinental means in between continents, isn't that technically a world title as well? Yeah, I suppose it is. David Air says we need a Thanos finger snap to reset the amount of titles. Look, I've been ranting about titles. And look, don't get me started on New Japan. We can go over to New Japan as well. Just look at this. I looked at this earlier too. This is utter insanity as well. This is utter, and look at the amount of titles here as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 titles in New Japan. 2 of which are women's titles, right? You have the IWGP Women's Championship and the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. One is held by Saya Kamitani and Shuri. Now, the only thing is, they are unifying that at Wrestle Kingdom, right? But they've got 2 women's championships. Yet the company holds about 5 women's matches a year, and they've got 2 titles and no roster. Like, it's madness. It's fucking madness what's going on with titles. Colin Nelligan says Punk and Cody are both the wrong side of 30. This does not build a future. Colin, I'm pretty sure they're both the wrong side of 40. I think Cody's over 40 now. Cody Rhodes, American professional wrestler, 40. And Punk's 47. So they're both the wrong side of 40. Even if we just have a look at the WWE champions again, who's holding all these titles, most of these people are old. And I know we did the old thing last week, and I don't want to get back into that again. Great, Ilya Dragunov has that title. He's not that old. No, I'm being a bit unfair. Most of them aren't that old. But if you look at like the 2 holders of the NXT titles, which is their developmental brand, Ricky Starks is 35 and Ethan Page is 36. So that's nearly worse than Cody and Punk being the world champions. The 2 singles male champions in your developmental brand are 35 and 36 years of age. Why aren't they on the main roster? And not only that, if we go to TNA, the TNA Women's Champion is a WWE contracted wrestler. The previous TNA World Champion was a WWE contracted wrestler. The current Mixed Tag Champions in AAA are WWE contracted talent. The current Mega Campion Champion in AAA is WWE contracted talent. The last tag champions in TNA were WWE contracted talent. The current NOAH tag team champions since the weekend are WWE contracted talent. There's another 8 titles in this company that are technically belonging to other companies. So what were we saying there? 23? There's probably 40 titles or 30 titles being used in this company at the moment. I need to stop talking about titles. Will we talk about Wrestle Kingdom? So the main event is set for Wrestle Kingdom. Konosuke Takeshita versus Yota Tsuji. That's what we all want to talk about today, isn't it? Takeshita versus Tsuji. Double championship match. So it looks like, back to titles, we're merging some titles here because this global title hasn't made any sense in a long time. It's a beautiful belt. It's a much nicer looking belt than the World Heavyweight title. I'm just hoping that if they do unify the titles, that they make a new belt that's nicer than the one. Ribshot says New Japan and AEW bought too many belts as well, but despite the names, they both have a distinctive top belt at least. Yeah, look, we went through those. New Japan have 13 belts. If you count Ring of Honor into AEW, they've got 20 or 21 belts. But they do at least have a singular top champion. Both companies have a singular top champion. An undisputed champion, if you will, Ribshot. At least AEW and New Japan have an undisputed world champion. Despite neither of them calling their title undisputed in a company with another title. World title. So, yeah. Wrestle Kingdom has now sold in excess of 32,000 tickets. We are currently about 8 weeks out from the show. Just under 2 months. Probably 7 and a bit weeks or whatever. It's on a Sunday morning. So chances are I might do a live watch along. Chances are I might do a live watch along on Sunday morning, 4th of January. Working out pretty well. I think it was Cottle asked earlier about my thoughts, or was it Mark? My thoughts on ticket sales. Like the unbelievable ticket sales. This is their highest advance in 30 years. And I think that is a confluence of factors. Well, two really. It being Tanahashi's retirement match and it being Aaron Wolf's debut. So I think those two things coming together have led to unbelievable ticket sales at a time when the company has been really struggling with ticket sales. If we look at, in particular, the G1 tour, like the G1 tour was sold as Tanahashi's last match in a lot of various cities and venues, and it didn't increase ticket sales. And I was really worried coming out of that for Wrestle Kingdom. But the fact that they've sold 32,000 tickets already in a tough economy out there at the minute, I think it's a sign that both Tanahashi's last match and Aaron Wolf's debut match are major draws. Colin says main event title match should be better than last year's Wrestle Kingdom title match. The Wrestle Kingdom one was Umino and Zack Sabre Jr. Yeah, look, I actually thought that was a pretty good match. And Takeshita hasn't really blown me away yet in many of his New Japan matches in the same way he has in his AEW matches. I don't know why. The Goto match last week was brilliant, and the Zack Sabre Jr. title match was brilliant, and one of his Zack Sabre Jr. matches at the G1 was brilliant. So he has had some brilliant matches, but I do expect, like, these two are going to have their working boots on, technically main event in the Tokyo Dome. I don't know if they go on last. I think you run the risk if you do the Tanahashi retirement match in the co-main. Because some people might leave after that, and you could end up getting a visual of the stadium emptying out during the Tsuji Takeshita match. And don't be surprised if Tsuji actually wins this. I thought there was no way Takeshita was losing after winning the title so soon, but when it was announced that it was Tsuji, I'm thinking they might put the title on Tsuji here. I'm thinking they might. Ronan Daniel says, I'm a little worried about the Aaron Wolf match. He still looks a bit lost when he does a run in, and Evil isn't exactly AJ's styles. And straight in, Colin Nelligan says, as much as I hate Evil's matches, I believe he could carry Aaron to a solid debut. Here's why I think I felt like Ronan did initially. I thought about it a little bit more then, and it kind of hit me. I think Evil might be the perfect first match for Aaron Wolf, simply because the amount of smoke and mirrors that's in an Evil match. Like, okay, what do you need to get out of this match? Aaron Wolf doesn't have to show up like Kurt Angle and be a very complete performer in his first match. That doesn't need to happen. What needs to happen is that Aaron Wolf does okay, doesn't look lost, and shows a lot of charisma. They're the only things that matter, those three things. But people have bought tickets to see Aaron Wolf, so you can't do like a 2-minute squash match. I don't think that would go over well with the live crowd. So what do you need to do? You need to do maybe 7 or 8 minutes, I think. And you could put him in with Yuji Nagata, who's training him. And they could have, because Yuji Nagata has he's fought MMA. He fucking fought Fedor Emelianenko. The greatest heavyweight in MMA history, in my opinion. But Yuji Nagata was also an exceptionally good amateur wrestler. I think he made an Olympic squad. So they could have, I'm sure Nagata and Aaron Wolf could have a really cool MMA wrestling judo fusion type match. I think they've gone with Evil because of the smoke and mirrors element. You can do a ref bump. You can do a load of run-ins, of which Aaron Wolf can just do the Brock Lesnar thing of suplexing 6 guys running into the ring, one after another, after another, after another. You can get Evil getting some heat with a chair shot to the back. Ronan says there, he'll hip toss all of House of Torture. That's exactly what I think this match is going to be. And you get to make him look like a badass by wiping out all of House of Torture and then judo throwing the shit out of Evil until he pins him. So yeah, I think that's why they've gone with Evil. The more I thought about it, the more sense it made with the run-ins and all that kind of stuff. I was like, yeah, this actually makes sense. They can smoke and mirrors the shit out of this guy's debut, and it can make him look better than he is. And then what you do is you just stick him in squash matches for a couple of months on the tour when they do their New Beginning tour. Do I think he'll come out with his medals? He's silver, wasn't he? I think he was silver medalist at the Olympics. Yeah, fuck it, wear the medal. Badass, wear the medal. He's a beast of a dude, like. He's a beast of a dude. I'm really looking forward to seeing him wrestle. But I think the main thing here is you come away going, oh man, that guy has charisma. That's all that matters. And not all that matters, but man, that guy has charisma and he's not shit. I don't think he'll be shit, to be honest. He's a ridiculous athlete. He seems to have a lot of respect for pro wrestling. He was friends with Okada before he got into wrestling. And he's a freak athlete, and he's big. He's a big old boy. He's a big, beefy boy. He's beefier than Shaz Beef. And Shaz Beef has it in his name. Aaron Wolf has Wolf in his name. What a fucking name, too. So I suppose this is the main thing now we know about. I think this is going to put ticket sales past 40,000. I did hear a few months ago from a guy I know who is all up in the New Japan shit and just Japanese wrestling in general. He said that he had heard somewhere that Okada had mended relationships behind the scenes with New Japan and that he would be at the Tokyo Dome. So I started kind of here on All Elite Morro talking about, I think it's Okada Takeshita at the Dome. I was wrong. I made a prediction based on some knowledge I had, and it was wrong. Because I thought they'd go with Tanahashi with a younger in-house talent. I never thought that Tanahashi and Nakamura would be the match at the Tokyo Dome. I just thought that wasn't a deal that was ever going to get done. I do think Nakamura would have done it. I do think Tanahashi probably... He's got an Olympic gold and 2 silver, Aaron Wolf. Holy shit. Yeah, he should wear all those medals to the ring. 100%. I do think Tanahashi was interested in the Nakamura match. I do think Nakamura was interested in the Tanahashi match. However, I don't think getting a deal done with WWE would have been possible in a way that didn't sell out the future of New Japan. Given what's going on with Noah and stuff as well. So I don't think that was ever really a starter. I thought to go with a young in-house talent. Somebody like Yu Imura or one of those guys. Despite the fact they had wrestled at G1 anyway. But yeah, because I did think they were going to go Okada and Takeshita. Now, when I seen the show advertised in, I can't pronounce it, but where this show took place on Saturday, I said, that's Okada's hometown. And it's Okada's birthday. So they booked the show in Okada's hometown on Okada's birthday with Tanahashi in the main event in his farewell to this town match. And I was like, okay, well, it's obviously Okada then. It's his hometown and his fucking birthday. And Tanahashi's announcing his opponent for Wrestle Kingdom there. Then the coin dropped. Brilliant moment. The crowd gone nuts looking for looking down for Okada. I just thought it was brilliant. And Okada has been sensational in his interviews afterwards, because he's been interviewed by Tokyo Sports and some other websites and stuff in Japan, and he keeps saying this should be the main event because Takeshita is not good enough for the main event of the Tokyo Dome. And I love it. It's fantastic because he's also using this to build his beef with Takeshita. Colin Nelligan says, do you think Tsuji is mature enough to be champion? He seems a little closed off and smiles too much, maybe needs another year. Colin, I would say he's not ready, but they should do it anyway. Sometimes you just have to do it. It's a company that needs freshness. So fuck it. And I don't know if he's ready. Look, they're not in the position they were. If you look back to the last decade, they were able to hold off on the coronation of Naito by 3 years. They held off coronating Naito for 3 years, but they could because they had Okada, they had Ibushi, they had Jay White, they had fucking Ospreay, even though, you know, the timelines don't exactly match up. But for someone else I'm forgetting. Okada, Omega. Like, they had all these guys, and they were able to hold off. They don't have that luxury anymore, so they need to do something with someone like Tsuji soon. So you mightn't be ready, but fuck it, you have to do it. Roland says, Okada Tanahashi kind of makes me think Orton should also be seen as last opponent because of the history. I would agree with that, Ronan, had they not have done the Orton match and advertised it as the last time ever back in the summer there, although that was a heel Cena. But they've done that already. So, yeah. But if they hadn't have done that already, then I would say, yeah, probably just do Cena and here's the thing. Okada coming back to the Dome makes way more sense than Nakamura from a business perspective. Okada's one of their best ever ticket sellers in the Dome, so he's a bigger draw in Japan than Nakamura is. Nakamura hasn't had a good match in about 7 years. Putting Nakamura and Tanahashi in what could be a long match in the Tokyo Dome, I think would expose both of them massively. Okada's still basically in his peak. You do need someone to carry Tanahashi, and I don't see Nakamura being able to do that right now. Whereas Okada can definitely do that. These guys have what I would say is the most important rivalry in 21st century New Japan. It's their rivalry from 2012 to 2017 that got this company back to the kind of pinnacle of pro wrestling. So I think Okada makes perfect sense, both from a business perspective, from a history perspective, but also from the perspective of Tanahashi's shot and you need someone who can carry him perspective. So for all three of those metrics, yeah, Tanahashi and Nakamura started together and they have a great history together too, so that one is probably equal, you know, if you're doing a comparison. They have equal histories. I would say the Okada Tanahashi feud for those few years is probably more important to the company, but in terms of what they were able to do in a growth perspective, but the Nakamura one and Tanahashi one's also extremely important, and they train together too. And from a business perspective, Okada's the biggest star they've had this century, particularly when it comes to selling tickets into Tokyo Dome. Mega Tokyo Dome draw. But from a match quality perspective, Okada's the obvious choice. Nakamura has been resting on his laurels for years. I don't know if he could just show up and turn it on. David Mean says they missed a trick booking Cena versus Orton early in the farewell. Yeah, and they did it when Cena was a heel as well. I don't think that helped either. Colin says Okada's perfect to make Tanahashi look 5 years younger in the ring. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So I think this is the right choice, and it gets Okada back in the Dome. Like the New Japan, like and I'm talking about English-speaking New Japan fans, because they're very different from the Japanese-speaking, like actual Japanese New Japan fans. They fucking love Okada. They cannot wait to see him in the Dome again, and they lost their fucking minds in that small arena the other day when he showed up. Okada's perfect for this spot, and I think it's the right choice. I think that is the right choice, and I think because of that, I think the Tokyo Dome capacity is 42,000 or 44,000. I think they have a legit shot of selling it out now, and selling it out in advance with not needing a walk up. I think they did over 40,000 once before. Now that mightn't have been New Japan. That could have been Pride, but that was with walk ups. New Japan, being where they're at now with 32,000 tickets sold 2 months before the event, is just absolutely insane. So, yeah. And the most important thing for this, and this is why I'm undecided on what should go on last. I think from a prestige perspective of the world title, you do want the world title to go on last. But this is also Tanahashi's career. And you don't want half the crowd walking out after the Tanahashi-Okada match. What needs to happen out of this show, right? Tanahashi and Iron Wolf are bringing more eyes to this show than what New Japan would have got based on their booking of the last year. The feeling needs to be after this show is we're in a new era and that was fucking awesome. We're in a new era and that was fucking awesome. And I want to go back and see Takeshita and Tsuji and Aaron Wolf and Uemura and whoever. So this card needs to deliver on that sense. Tanahashi's retirement and Aaron Wolf's debut have got people to the building, and Okada's return, as Colin says, could make a massive leap in ticket sales. I expect when the most recent bout of the next batch of numbers we get for ticket sales, Colin, after Okada's announcement, will be a big leap. Like, I think it could go from 32 to like 35 or 36,000 on the announcement of Okada. At the very least, I think he adds 2,000 or 3,000 to what it's currently sat at. New Japan don't want the Mania 18 main event on their hands. Yeah, and I think that's the danger of going with Takeshita and Tsuji last. And like basically what you want is, right, if Takeshita and Tsuji go on second last and they have an absolute banger, which they're definitely capable and I think likely of doing, and people then stay for the main event, people are staying for Tanahashi Okada no matter what. What you want to do is get maximum eyes on the Takeshita Tsuji match, and if that means putting it on second last to make sure you maximize viewership of it, then that's where you put it. Because what you need to do is you need the fans that were there, and because let's say like if this wasn't Tanahashi's retirement or Aaron Wolf's debut, this could legit be sitting at like 12,000-15,000 sold. So you're adding probably 20,000 people to that arena based on Okada's return, Tanahashi's retirement, and Aaron Wolf's debut. So you want those extra 20,000 that bought tickets just to see those three guys, you want them to turn around and say, yeah, New Japan is back. This Takeshita guy is awesome. This Tsuji guy is awesome. And to go back to see them. And so the feeling needs to be coming out of it. New Japan is back. New Japan is fresh. And I think the best way to do that is put the title on Tsuji. Because you're not going to have access to Takeshita as much as you may want. You'll get him in for the monthly pay-per-views, maybe a couple of build-up shows, but you won't have him for the full tours when you're going out to the smaller arenas and venues around the country. You will have Tsuji. So I do think you maybe go with Tsuji for the early part of the year if he goes over Takeshita just before the Tanahashi-Okada match, and then you can finish the show. You can close out the show with a bit of a retirement ceremony for Tanahashi. Wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't that be just a nice way? You'd be around 12 o'clock in Ireland on a Sunday morning. I'd be sitting there. I might have had my eggs and sausages. I might be drinking my second cup of coffee, and I'd be watching a little Tanahashi retirement ceremony live. Wouldn't that be lovely? I think that'd be a lovely way to finish it. On to the Nixon, Newell and Miranda Alize. This is such a fucking funny story. I'm going to let the chat catch up a little bit there, because I think I'm at like 40 seconds ahead of the chat. What are your takes on this? So basically, these two did a job match last week for AEW against Megan Bain and Marina Shafir, and they were supposed to do a match on this week's Collision. They were to lose in 3 minutes, and they essentially said no and walked out, or left. I don't know, walked out. That might sound a bit strong. But what are people's thoughts or takes on Nixon, Newell and Miranda Alize walking out before and refusing? I think they were trying to say that they weren't walking out. So they did a live stream afterwards, saying they didn't walk out because they were asked to do the job. They walked out because they were only given 3 minutes. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on that before we get deep into it. Catch up with the chat before we do that. Ripshot says, I'd love for Japan to have a good exclusive roster again. It got watered down so much that they stopped coming to England. I used to look forward to that every year. Yeah, and some of those English shows were bangers. It was a Royal Quest, I think they used to call it. So, like, they had some great shows there. And, like, of course, I was living in the Middle East when all those shows were happening in England, so I could never fly over to them. But, yeah, I would love for them to build up their roster to that level again, where it's exclusive as well. David Ayre says, so this is in relation to Miranda Alize and Nixon Newell. Very strange story, to be honest. Ronan, the analyst, says, what were they thinking? At the end of the day, they are indie talent. Yeah, here's my thoughts on it. Because I watched their live stream last night as well, where they were kind of playing victim a little bit. They were kind of playing victim. Like, I was like, you're victims because you got booked to get fucking 3 minutes on TV. Oisin McCarthy says, Nixon Newell pulls a toxic stunt like this and proves she's difficult to work with. Also, Nixon Newell, why will no one book me? Make it make sense. Yeah, she was literally complaining 2 weeks ago that nobody was booking her. And then she gets booked, not by an indie, by the second biggest fucking wrestling promotion in the world, and given TV time 2 weeks in a row. Colin, I'm not reading that out. Yeah, very hot. So, yeah, here's my take. And they claim we're independent contractors. We don't have to take the job. But you had taken the job. You had taken the job. I own a small business, and I frequently work with independent contractors. And I hired an independent contractor relatively recently. So, Ripshot, what happened was Nixon Newell and Miranda Alize were brought in as enhancement talent. They're independent contract, or they were brought in as indie talent to put over some AEW women's tag teams. They didn't like the fact that their match was only going to be 3 minutes long, so they walked out. Some people said they didn't like the fact that they were losing, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. So I hired what you would call an independent contractor, i.e. a carpenter, to do a job for me. The carpenter came. I outlined what I wanted for the job. The carpenter says, I think you should do it this way. And I said, no, I have a reason for why I want it done this way. It's to do with maximizing space. And he said, oh yeah, okay. And he did it the way I asked. He didn't fucking walk out. He didn't walk out because he'd agreed to come and do 3 days work, and he fucking did 3 days works. What would you have done if that happened, if the Fantastics done that on TW? I would have fired them. Obviously. I would have, just, you know, I would have done actually. I would have changed their match to be against Miracle Violence Connection and said, boys, teach them a lesson. Yeah, if I walked, like, what were they expecting? So, like, I just think this is totally bizarre, right? They're complaining about not getting bookings. And they're over there comparing it to when Mercedes and Naomi lost their shit over the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. But also, Mercedes and Naomi were major established talent at the time, like, you know? So, I took some notes on this earlier. I'll bring it up. I thought I'd remember most of it off my head, but I can't because, as I've said, my memory is terrible, right? So yeah, like the main thing I was thinking is if I hire an independent contractor to do a job for me in my business, they show up and do the job. And the reason being is I pay them. So these two are independent wrestlers. They're not signed to any company. What did they were brought in to do a job. What did they expect the job to be? Like to go in there and win, or to go in and have 10-minute matches? That was never going to be the job. Also, another part is, I think they were flown in by AEW. And they probably had hotels paid for by AEW. So could AEW turn around and say, okay, well, you didn't do the job, so we want our hotel and flight money back? They probably could. I doubt they would, but they probably could. And here's the other thing. Sorry. Here's the other thing. You look at the history of talent in AEW, particularly going back to the AEW Dark Days, who got 3 minutes or less and made the absolute most out of it. I'm thinking of people like the Outrunners. The Outrunners were booked in constant, basically tag team comedy squashes. But they were super charming. They worked really hard. They got over and they got contracts. Powerhouse Hobbs' debut match was a 71-second loss. Powerhouse Hobbs. He's now holding the trios titles, involved in the main event storyline with Samoa Joe and Hangman Adam Page. His first time showing up there was a 71-second loss. And The Acclaimed started off as tag team comedy jobbers, became tag team champions, had a great run for a couple of years. Yeah, they got stale then and whatever. Things haven't been going so great for them recently, but they got 2 or 3 years on the main roster on TV every fucking week in long matches, having the time of their lives. The history of wrestling is littered with people who came in to do a job, worked hard, got over, and got paid long term in a company. Look at Tony Khan. He's so loyal to people, to a fault, I would say, because people came in and worked hard for him and were willing to put over other people. Sammy Guevara probably has a job for life in AEW. A job for life. Despite the fact that so many times we talk about how stale he is, maybe he could do it going away for a while, so on and so on and so on. But he was there from the start. He did jobs whenever he was asked to. He went to Ring of Honor when he was asked. He came to Dark when he was asked. He was there through the pandemic. That guy's got a job for life because he put a shift in. Not because he's particularly fantastic or anything, because he put a shift in. These two, if they got their head down and did a bit of fucking work and made their match memorable in the 3 minutes they were given, they could be there for years. Look at the Outrunners. The Outrunners were booked every week on TV there for about 7 months, getting proper TV time. And they're still on TV frequently now. Ronan says, it's like when Cody and Kevin Owens were talking about former WWE talent wanting more than their worth on the indies, overpricing themselves on the indies, 100%, just because they used to work for WWE. And Tony's learning here. Tony's learning. We see Tony pivot earlier this year in the talent he signed. This year he hasn't been signing people from WWE. He's been signing people like a lot of WWE talent were released this year that Tony didn't touch. He went and got the Mike Baileys, Kevin Knights, Alexanders of the world. They're the guys he's signing. And these two women were given an opportunity to come in. Oh, fucking Ronan, there's another great one. Look at Eddie Kingston. Sold his boots when he was let go by the NWA, got one match against Cody Rhodes and changed his whole career. That guy got main events. Multiple TV main events. He put in the opener of the very first match in front of fans again. It was Eddie Kingston and John Moxley versus the Young Bucks. And that wasn't Moxley, or Eddie Kingston wasn't there long. He had programs with Bryan Danielson. He had programs with John Moxley. He had programs with the Young Bucks. He had programs with fucking CM Punk. The second guy the company trusted to have a program of Punk's proper first feud in the company was Eddie Kingston because the company trusted him. The guy was there about a year, if even a year. He was a guy who sold his boots, but was given one opportunity, come in and put over Cody Rhodes in a TNT title match. Thanks, Eddie. Eddie, actually, you were really awesome there. That promo you cut there when we gave you the chance to do it was brilliant, and you had a really good match with Cody. Why don't you come back next week? And then, still there now. Eddie Kingston's another guy. Job for life if he wants it. Colin Nelligan, look at Jake Hager giving out about wrestlers being used as well as wrestlers, and him complaining and talk about forgetting your job. Yeah. What's your job? Your job is to entertain. It's not a fucking sport. I used to have this with teachers when I was doing timetabling. I used to do a lot of timetabling. Come complain to me about their timetable. I don't want to teach year 8. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're a teacher. You teach you, you're told to fucking teach. We're paying you. It drives me insane. Trying to pick and choose your spots. Or like, you know, someone who didn't have a fantastic reputation as a teacher going, I think maybe I should be teaching the exam years. The fuck are you talking about? It's the same as this, showing up going, well, why are we only getting 3 minutes? Not why are we only getting 3 minutes? What can you do with your 3 minutes? Look at this company, Swerve. Came in and ate pin after pin after pin. Daniel Garcia ate 1 million pins. Wheeler Yuta ate 1 million pins. Fucking Claudio Castagnoli still eats regular pins. Orange Cassidy eats regular pins. Like, some of the most over people in the company. John Moxley's getting bet up a stick recently. Take your loss and make it count. Do something with it. Come up with a cool spot that people remember. Come up with like a funny spot with your opponent or something that looks badass. And get asked back again. And keep doing one cool thing every time you get there. That's all I have to say about it. I watched SmackDown the other day. That was the worst wrestling show I've ever seen. And that's the end of my SmackDown review. Ronan, that's one of my favourite stories, the Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman one. They were shooting The Marathon Man. Fantastic film. And Dustin Hoffman was going pure into the method stuff, you know. And Laurence Olivier was the opposite of a method actor. Fantastic actor as well for his time. And he said to him, Dustin, darling, have you tried acting? It's one of my favourite stories ever. Yeah. You're a fucking actor. You're a wrestler. Show up and wrestle. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And you're not even a contracted wrestler. You're not contracted to the company. Why would they invest TV time in you before you're contracted? I wonder will they show up on TNA in a few weeks. You know, the second biggest wrestling company in America who are gone dark for the month of November and I think possibly December. Have you talked about how there's been no build for Survivor Series? There's only 2 weeks away. SmackDown might be the worst television show on the go in wrestling. SmackDown, I think, is worse than NXT at the moment. It's more offensively bad. Honestly, all right, that was kind of a joke that's my SmackDown review, but really, like, Shane said he liked the opening promo. I didn't. I've seen it a million times. Cody just doing Cody shit again. And then the first match was okay. What was the first match? Was that the Dragunov one, wasn't it? That was perfectly fine. But like, such a bad wrestling show. Shane says he didn't mind SmackDown the other day. I can't get over that, Shane. I genuinely thought it was one of the worst wrestling shows, top to bottom, I've ever seen in my life. I need to remind myself of some of the stuff on it. Vince. There we go. 2.75 on Cage Match. That's insane. What's the previous one? 5.55. That's hard to say in a cage match. It's 17 to 19 all over again. Sometimes conspiracies are just conspiracies. But I'm not wholly convinced that Paul Rodag are not texting Vince and asking him to help with this. What the fuck was that Julia versus Chelsea Green match? Even if she moves up the cards, there's no explanation for that. I don't know what was more disgusting and embarrassing, Julia's booking or the booking of the match with CG. 2 title matches lasted in 1 week, a total of 7 minutes. Yeah, people seem to hate the show. Ilya Gargano, that was it. That was decent. I skipped a lot though, yeah. I had not watched WWE in a while though. Cody's WWE figurehead and the show he's on is dire. It's in a dire state. It's in a dire state. I thought Dragunov Gargano was perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Colin remembers the ads. Nia Jackson, Charlotte Flair, I thought was shit. Chelsea Green and Julia, I thought was a fucking abomination. An abomination. It's exactly how Vince would book people when he was done with them. Exactly how Vince would book people when he was done with them. And yeah, Julia, go back to Stardom. Talatonga versus Rey Fenix. Like, what is happening with Rey Fenix here? Rey Fenix needs to tweet again about being in prison or whatever it was he had an issue with, because it's gross negligence at this stage. Aleister Black versus Cody Rhodes. Aleister Black to me is one of the most boring wrestlers in the world. He hasn't done anything interesting in years. Like, since NXT probably. Maybe his tag team with Ricochet on Raw when they showed up that time. It's inexplicable. And this happened the last time they brought Road Dogg in again. How does Road Dogg keep getting jobs in creative? And I'm not trying to like take any blame away from Triple H here. He's equally to blame because he's head of creative. But Road Dogg has to go, man. He has to go. It's genuine one of the worst wrestling shows I've ever seen. What can I get a bit of variety as well? What about no tag match there or a trios match? Remember when Triple H was pissed Vince had nothing for the NXT call-ups? Triple H is just as bad now. Yeah. He doesn't even call up people. I truly believe Triple H is 1 foot out the door. Feels like there's a big disconnect there, or a massive lack of interest. I don't know what it is. Feels like his eyes aren't on the road. Genuinely thought it was one of the worst TV programs I've ever seen. I text Shane. I don't normally watch it, like, you know. Oshin Max says I saw someone tweet that Rey Fenix left AEW to lose to the 17th most talented Samoan. And they stole the Hidden Blade. They stole the Hidden Blade. Who's the agent? There's an agent in WWE, and it's whoever agents Logan Paul's matches is watching loads of AEW and stealing all the moves. Like, oh yeah, them guys over there do way better wrestling. I'm just going to rob all their moves. I would love to know who it is. Or maybe it's multiple of them. Yeah, let's steal all Hangman's moves. The Ruthless Depression era. That was the one that Shane sent to me earlier. A tweet as well. A screenshot of a tweet. People are calling it the Ruthless Depression era. Yeah, there's just bad vibes all around. It needs a shake-up of epic proportions very, very soon. And here's another thing. And no, who asked about? There is no build Survivor Series. But also I feel like there isn't much of a build to Blood and Guts. This is next week. Blood and Guts is next week. And the women's match feels like a hodgepodge. And the men's match feels like it missed its opportunity. It should have been a month ago. Because, like, the conglomeration are doing like an almost Friends type sitcom gimmick. Yet they're in a match called Blood and Guts. Don't get me wrong. I do think it's going to be good. Mark Briscoe and Darby Allin in a Blood and Guts match. Brilliant. Cottle Crow says, am I still supposed to believe that WWE is on fire right now? Triple H is going to keep saying it, but all the evidence is there that the boom is over and things will return to, I suppose, look, I'm not talking about quality here, and I'm just talking like business. And they're still going to be making insane profits, but the boom is over. They're not going to be doing these regular Raw having 15,000 people in arenas anymore. That's gone. That's gone. They might hit 10,000 a couple of times, but most of the Raws, I reckon, are going to probably peter out around 7,000. Yeah, good tickets. SmackDowns, I think things could get spooky for SmackDown. Things could get real spooky because their own fan base are hating SmackDown at the minute. I don't want to see the company completely fail either. I do want to see Triple H completely fail. But yeah, I don't want to see WWE fail. David Ayer says, I don't really like submission or surrender for blood and guts, but might actually be good if Moxley quits again. I think Moxley will quit again. Ron says, how long before TKO gets buyer's remorse and wants to sell on again? Will TKO still own WWE in 2 years? Can I do a poll on this? There is a way to do a poll, isn't there? How do I do a poll? Start a poll. Let's see. It's going to start this poll. I've always wanted to do this. Yay, look at this. Will TKO sell WWE within 2 years? I think probably 2 years is an interesting cut-off point. Because the company's made so much money over the last year that they won't sell it soon. Who would be ideal buyers for TKO? They won't sell TKO. They'll dismantle TKO and they'll sell the WWE part of it and they'll put UFC back out on its own again. Most people want Vince to take over. Fuck that. That's Sex Pest there where he is. It's Saudi, Ribshaw. If anybody's buying it, it's going to be Saudi. Yeah, Shane, Saudi. Who else is going to buy it? I don't see anyone else buying it. Maybe, and I've always wondered why this never happened before, right? ESPN are paying them over the course of 5 years, they're paying them 1.5 billion. They could probably buy the whole thing for 4 billion and never have to pay rights fees for it again and just have it forever. So, David Ayer says Saudi or Disney will buy it. Could see Disney too. If they lose the ESPN deal, they're definitely selling it. If you look at their history with deals recently, they haven't re-signed the same deal. They haven't re-signed outside of USA Network. But that's slightly different. Brian Maxey says you'll buy it for $5. I won't even buy it for $5. I would actually, because I'd make tremendous money off it. So if you look at the recent history of television deals, they haven't re-upped with a company outside of USA Network in a long time. No company has gone with them twice in a row. Fox got rid of them because Fox were like, this thing is losing us tremendous amounts of money, and then they got paid more to go elsewhere. So I could see them losing the ESPN deal, but not. They'll have it for 5 years, like. So look, this company isn't going to lose any money. This company is going to continue to print epic amounts of money. ESPN and Netflix must be desperately livid given the return on investment for the astronomical money they've paid for the product. I don't know, streaming is such a weird economy that none of these companies make any money. Like, actually, none of these monies make cash. Like, they don't make money off our subscriptions. All they make money off is share prices. So it's splashing out big money for acquiring rights to different stuff. Seems to be all to do with increasing the share price and not actually getting us to, like, look at the economics. I read something there. So the 340 million a year from ESPN for the pay-per-views, based on the numbers of people who've signed up for that ESPN product, the tier that includes the WWE pay-per-views. I've seen that thing, it looks like, based on the amount of fans who signed up for the first couple of WWE shows, that thing will make about 40 million this year off WWE fans. But they've spent 340 million, and they're going to make 40 million back in subscriptions. They might make another 40 million or whatever back in advertising on WWE shows, if even that much. Maybe that much, yeah. Maybe not, actually. It's only one show a month. Like, ESPN are technically losing around over 200 million anyway on this WWE deal. But that's just in what we would classify as normal business practices. But with share prices and all factored in, who the fuck knows how any of this shit works? So 80% think WWE or TKO will sell WWE within 2 years. I think 2 years is very short. But I don't think, I think if I say 5 years, it's 100% yes. 100%. 100%. Did you get to the stuff about the WrestlePalooza becoming a top show and then moving away from all the stuff Vince created? Yes. Yeah, this is Mark Shapiro. He's just Mark Shapiro just doesn't have a clue about the wrestling industry, but he does know about TV and IP and all that kind of stuff. And he wants the company to create all new things like WrestlePalooza and get rid of all the stuff Vince created. And he thinks that will freshen up the product by putting new names on shit. Mark Shapiro just doesn't know wrestling fan base and the lore of history, and WrestleMania draws because it's WrestleMania. Look at all those years when they were putting on all these WrestleManias 34, 7, 8, whatever, where they were putting on consistent dog shit WrestleManias year after year after year, and they still sold out stadiums because people always hope this is WrestleMania, this is going to be big, and I want to go to a WrestleMania. And it invariably disappointed year after year after year. But people still went because it's WrestleMania. Imagine you just took away the history of all their events. Best of luck getting people to invest in. It's Mark Shapiro, a lot of these things leak out from him going on doing a business interview, and they're talking business shit that really, when it comes down to the brass tacks of the wrestling industry, is never going to happen. They might get rid of things like Backlash or whatever. And Rowan says Shapiro thinks WWE and UFC are the same market. He does. But also, UFC, in my opinion, are a drastically underperforming company as well. Despite the fact they make shitloads of money. That's a company that could be performing. They don't promote any of their top stars whatsoever. They do absolutely nothing. They don't get them on talk shows. They don't even put out good pre-fight promos anymore. Their use of posters is dire. I genuinely think the pro wrestling industry and the UFC are, most fan interest is driven by fans who create content on the side. I genuinely think. And look, we're sitting here, we've had 32 views over the hour of this thing, right? I'm not talking about me here, but I'm talking about much more successful versions of me. People who get a couple of 5,000 viewers a week on a live stream or a YouTube videos they do. I think that's what's driving this industry, to be honest, and UFC industry as well. Look at Ariel Helwani show. I don't like him as a journalist, really, in particular. But he gets thousands of people watching his interviews every week. And he does better promotion for the UFC than the UFC do. Ribshot says, to be fair, I've been putting off going to a Mania based on how much the tickets are now. Yeah, look, I'm not going to go for the current prices. I think it was Jer who would be in the chat here sometimes. He was telling me before how much it cost him to go to one. I think it was in Dallas or somewhere years ago. And very reasonable. Very reasonable. What he paid back then. Now, and I spoke to someone else recently who went to... No, I spoke to someone recently who went to the one in Dallas. That was very reasonably priced. But that's a while ago. Rowan says he mainly catches up on wrestling through podcasts. I genuinely think the podcast industry for both wrestling and UFC do more to promote the product than either of the companies do. Certainly more so with UFC, because in fairness to WWE, they are very good. One thing they're really good at is promoting their shit, getting their stuff across. Rowan says I used to watch most UFC shows. Couldn't tell you the last one I watched now. Yeah, I used to go to loads of UFC shows. I used to go to UFC gyms. I've traveled multiple places in the world for UFC, and like I've never felt more disconnected from the product. Part of that is like WWE leaning into the MAGA stuff. Part of it is just they're not very good at making things exciting, making me care about fighters, and like even like with Ronda, she did a lot of that herself, and he who shall not be named, he did a lot of that himself. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like Shapiro, I just don't think understands. He understands television and that kind of stuff and marketing, but he doesn't understand. Not marketing. Sorry, he understands television and IP and the importance of IP, but he doesn't understand the importance of history to the general wrestling fan. Blood and Guts. So we have Blood and Guts coming up next week, or this week on Dynamite. This feels under promoted to me massively. And the women's match feels like a hodgepodge. I know they've got loads of injuries. And the men's one feels like it's coming too late. It should have been before the I Quit match. Really, it should have been before the blow off to the Darby Mox thing. Because the Darby Mox thing felt like a line in the sand. But now they're still interacting in this. So to me, I'm not super excited about the build. I also think having two of the same match type in the same night is overkill. I've never liked that in any company in the history of wrestling. I'm not going to pretend I like it because AEW are doing it. Two of the same match type are overkill. There is one thing though that I love about this. Oshin says, I honestly question if TKO understand the wrestling demographic. Vince never had tickets astronomical because he knew the audience was for the commoner and it's a family show. Yes. And Ripshot says, I tend to make all my content based on older stuff. I think at Ripshot, that's probably a good idea too, because things will stay, your content will stay more evergreen. Like with these All Elite Morros that I do on Monday night, they die a death after 3 or 4 days because it's very specific to this week. Like this will be out of date in 2 days' time when Blood and Guts actually happens. Ronan says, I can't tell you who all the wrestlers are in the Blood and Guts matches. Just fucking loads of minutes. There's 6 and 6 in the women's and 5 and 5 in the men's. But here, Blood and Guts normally is run around July after they do an Anarchy in the Arena Stadium Stampede type match in AEW. This year they decided to do it in November, 2 weeks before Survivor Series are doing what we can only assume are 2 War Games matches. I think this is Tony going, you know what we're going to do? We're going to counter-program WWE by trying to burn out the fans on the concept 2 weeks before they do it. And you know what? He's dead right. Oshin says the women's match in particular feels like chaos and not the good kind. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not like neither of these I'm not sold. Like I'll watch it because I've watched nearly every episode of Dynamite ever. So I'll watch it, of course. But I'm not like hyped for these matches. And I do think we've gotten so many War Games matches, Blood and Guts matches in the last few years that the concept does feel a little bit tired at the moment. But I am kind of, if I'm right in the sense of why he's doing it in November is as his way of counter-programming WWE, I'm kind of happy that he's shown that pair of balls, because he did move his pay-per-view All Out to the earlier time slot and he was accused of having a lack of balls. So if he's doing this as a way to try and burn out the audience on this style of match before WWE runs them in a few weeks' time, then fair fucking play. But they didn't do a good job building to them. Let's be honest, they haven't done a good job building to them. I feel like I've been very negative today. I was shitting all over Nixon, Newell and Miranda Alize. I've been shitting all over the addition of titles and the amount of titles in pro wrestling. I was positive about Tokyo Dome and Wrestle Kingdom. I've been shitting all over the concept of Blood and Guts and feeling tired in 2025 because if you're like me and you watch a lot of wrestling, and a lot of people in this chat do, they'll watch at least the PLEs from both companies, or the PLEs from WWE and the pay-per-views from AEW. you will have seen in essentially about 10 War Games matches, 15 War Games matches in the last 5 years. And you never want that to happen. At this stage, it feels like WWE will finalise the War Games participants on SmackDown the night before. It does, actually. Missed the stream tonight, but made it here to say Bandito is the best fucking wrestler ever. Yes, Aaron. That guy is on a roll of a lifetime, isn't he? That Mascara Dorada match was just fucking awesome once again. And I've decided I am going to finish 2025 with an All Elite Morro, kind of an All Elite Morro awards show. I think that would be a fun way to finish. Now we're about 7 weeks away from that, but yeah, I just decided on it the other day. What do I watch it on in Ireland? We get all of WWE basically on Netflix, and I get all my AEW. Now I pay a subscription for Triller TV. You get Collision and Dynamite weekly on Triller. I think it's like €20 a month or in around that. And then you have to pay then €20 for the pay-per-views, which is a lot cheaper than what people have to pay for in America. Call them the Morries. Are we not the morons? At the end of the show, there goes the focus. My focus. Is it gone again? Or am I all blurry Morrow again? We've got an hour and 26 minutes. Sensational show. Don't mention the focus, he gets confused. Yeah, Shane clipped me last week. Shane, 9:15, our new episode of the podcast is going live. Is that correct? Where we talk about the legacy, impact, and influence of Rey Mysterio. The Mario Awards. We're doing the Mario Awards at the end of. Can people suggest categories for the awards actually over the next few weeks? Have a think about it. Next week we'll do collect suggestions for categories for the Morries. 9:15. Podcast goes live on YouTube and Spotify and all those other podcast places. The impact, influence, and legacy of Rey Mysterio. That's for Shane. Rey Mysterio. Shane just released over the weekend the Kerwin White bizarre doc. Super fun, very funny. That's doing really well for us on YouTube. We're pumping out content on the socials now at the minute. On TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, all that stuff as well. We got the last episode of rebooking WCW 1992 Total Extreme Morrow coming Wednesday at lunchtime. I'm so proud of that. It ends so well. I do the build Starcade, I do Starcade, and then I show the end of year awards from the game. So much fun. That's the end of that one. There's also an announcement at the end of it of what we're doing next with the rebooking Total Extreme Morrow series. It's not going away, but it is changing. Shane will have a new bizarre one out on Al Wilson, if you remember that storyline. Tori Wilson's dad. I won't give any spoilers because it might get us demonetized again. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming into the chat. All the crew as usual. Ronan, my man Ribshaw, Aaron Reynolds. We had Oisin Mack in as always, legend. We had Colin Nelligan as always, Maxie. David Ayers was here, another legend. Cottle Crow was in. I said Colin, yeah, we banger episode tonight. Went an hour and 28 minutes. Lunacy. Most of it was me pissing and moaning about stuff. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Enjoyed chatting wrestling with the All Elite morons. Thanks everybody. Take care. Brush your hair.